Welcome back to Ben Keenan Just Can't Stop Talking, the water cooler episode, aka the 10-ish minute news and culture show that tells you literally everything that happened today so that you can be a little bit smarter about a lot of things. It is Thursday, February 27th. We are back. We are back after 2 days because yesterday I had my event that I had to go to, so there was no episode yesterday, but we are back today on Thursday with all of the news from both Wednesday and Thursday. There aren't going to be any timestamps today because we're trying to power through this in the 10-minute-ish that I promised you. So let me know if you like it without timestamps. I'm comfortable switching things up a bit, taking your feedback. And yes, before we get started, this is a Grillo's pickle sweatshirt. It is swag that they sent me, and it might be my new favorite thing. It's got a big pickle on the back, and he's kind of lounging. Totally. Can you see the vision here? Anyway, you know the drill. We're going to start with everything that happened on Wednesday, which technically would be our overnight, and then we're going to move into everything that happened today on Thursday. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Florida Republican Congressman Byron Donalds announced he is running for the governorship of Florida, which has then been endorsed by Donald Trump. However, current Republican Governor Ron DeSantis has some choice words for Byron, likely because his wife, Casey DeSantis, is rumored that she is sniffing around the governorship herself.
My view is Donald Trump just got into office. I want these congressmen focused on enacting his agenda. The reality is we've achieved victories in Florida. We need to start achieving those victories up there. So I think people look at it and say, you got a guy like Byron. He just hasn't been a part of any of the victories that we've had here over the left over these last years. He's just not been a part of it.
Canada officially renamed the coffee drink where you put a shot of espresso into a cup of hot water, an Americano. It's no longer an Americano, it is now a Canadiano in order to protest Donald Trump across the country. Georgia's Supreme Court Chief Justice announced that he will be stepping down at the end of March. The replacement will be chosen by current Georgia Republican Governor Brian Kemp, and the new Chief Justice will then be voted on by all of the other justices. Drake canceled all of his remaining Australia and New Zealand shows due to, quote, scheduling conflicts. I, till the end of time, will never understand scheduling conflicts when you literally announced an entire tour. Like, what possibly came up that is so, conflicting that you can't do the shows that you promised to all of those people? They said they're working to reschedule, but just that's rude. They bought hotel rooms, they bought flights, stop canceling shit. Minnesota Democratic Governor and former Kamala Harris running mate Tim Walz announced that he is not running for the open seat in Minnesota for the Senate and is instead contemplating running for a third term as governor. Minnesota does not have term limits on governors. He could run for a third if he wants. That's what happened with us with Jay Inslee in Washington. So in my opinion, you can definitely count out Tim Walz as a potential presidential candidate for the 2028 Democratic nomination. Jeff Bezos, the rich Amazon man, but also the owner of the Washington Post, announced that he is forcing the opinion section of said Washington Post to only focus on pieces about personal liberties and free markets. Oh, that one was a nice juicy one. There you go, Jeff. There was another plane incident in DC where an American Airlines plane had to abort its landing to avoid hitting another plane that was taking off from the same runway. Everybody now, what the fuck is going on with the Federal Aviation Administration, Sean Duffy? The trailer for Another Simple Favor, that movie with Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, officially dropped. So it's the second version, part 2 of A Simple Favor.
I think about her all the time. The faceless blonde I thought I knew. Was she a glamorous PR executive? Or a cold-blooded killer?
I liked A Simple Favor. I don't know. I'm just going to say, if you want to go watch it, it's an interesting movie. An unvaccinated child in Texas has died as part of the 120-person measles outbreak that's currently happening on the western part of the state. Here's what our current health secretary, RFK Jr., had to say about it.
Bobby, do you want to speak on that?
We are following the measles epidemic every day. I think there's 124 people who have contracted measles at this point, mainly in Gaines County, Texas. Mainly, we're told, in the Mennonite community. There are 2 people who have died, but we're watching it, and there are about 20 people hospitalized, mainly for quarantine. We're watching it. We put out a post on it yesterday, and we're going to continue to follow it. Incidentally, there have been 4 measles outbreaks this year in this country. Last year there were 16. So it's not unusual. We have measles outbreaks every year.
This is the first measles-related death in 10 years in the United States, so not so common. So do you remember when I told you that the government was doing a contract for $400 million for Tesla in order to buy armored Tesla vehicles, and then they made it go away, and then they were like, oh my God, no, this happened under the Joe Biden administration. Well, as you can likely imagine, fraud happened, but it's not like the bullshit Doge fraud. This is like legitimate fraud. So it sounds like NPR obtained State Department documents that revealed that Biden only approved $483,000 for EVs generally. Not Teslas, but just like EVs. And then what it sounds like is that when Trump was elected, this number was changed from 400,000 to 400 million. So they added 3 zeros on the end on purpose, not as a clerical error, but like actually did it is what they're reporting, and then backdated it to make it look like Joe Biden allocated it. But allegedly this was all changed under Trump. That tea is piping hot. You should continue to follow this story. It's going to not go away anytime soon. California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom announced that he's launching his own podcast called This is Gavin Newsom and is inviting MAGA folks to come talk to him on it. Now listen, if we didn't already think he was running for president, this podcast should solidify it for you that this man is definitely running for president in 2028, and expanding his MAGA audience is honestly genius. I come from the public relations world. By reaching out outside of Democrats and trying to build your brand outside of Fox News and the right-wing ecosystem with inviting MAGA people on are going to allow some people to start to trust or at least better know your face, changing the caricature that Trump has really tried to create over the last 10 years, which is going to be necessary if he wants to drag some of the populist people from the Trump voters over to the Democratic voters. It will be fascinating to follow. I don't think you need to listen to the podcast or, listen to an episode here or there. Check out the clips that they're obviously going to post on social media. I just think that you should follow the information because this is going to be something that is really going to boost his name recognition, external of the Democratic Party and external of Fox News, so he can come up with his own narrative. Real Housewives of Potomac star Karen Huger was sentenced to serve 2 years in jail with 1 year mandatory for a 2024 DUI crash in Montgomery County, Maryland. The Trump administration issued a memo directing federal agencies to develop plans for sweeping layoffs of government employees with civil service protections. In fact, like a half an hour after this, Trump announced that the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, the administrator of that, Lee Zeldin, plans to cut 65% of the workforce there. Fuck the environment, am I right? Trump announced that he is placing 25% tariffs on imports from Europe. And on Wednesday, the last thing that happened, actress Michelle Trachtenberg, known for her roles in Gossip Girl, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Eurotrip, 17 Again, and for us DCOM fans, Ice Princess, died at 39 years old. According to People, the NYPD confirmed that police responded to a 911 call at 1 Columbus Place in New York City around 8 a.m. on February 26th. Quote, upon arrival, officers observed a 39-year-old female unconscious and unresponsive. EMS responded to the location and pronounced the victim dead. Criminality is not suspected. She was an icon, and I'm actually really sad about this, and I don't know if it's because I grew up watching her, but this one hurts pretty badly. All right, on to the news of today. Actor Gene Hackman, his wife and classical pianist Betsy Arakawa, and their dog were all found dead this morning in their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And this is going to sound really dark, but they always say celebrity deaths happen in threes, and the fact that it was Michelle Trachtenberg followed immediately by actor Gene Hackman and classical pianist Betsy Arakawa, those are 3 celebrities. Doesn't matter what stature, 3 celebrities. Right-wing manosphere influencers, and if you're listening to this, you can't see me putting it in air quotes, influencers, self-described misogynists, and sex trafficking brothers Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate were sent from where they were being held in Romania back to the United States this morning upon request from the Trump administration. Peppa Pig's mom, Mummy Pig, announced her 3rd pregnancy. That's wild. Gayle King, Katy Perry, and Jeff Bezos' fiancée Lauren Sanchez are all going to space on an upcoming Blue Origin flight, which is Jeff Bezos' rocket company. I don't know why they're doing this, but they're doing this. Zendaya has been cast as Shrek's daughter in Shrek 5. Truthfully, I didn't know that there was a Shrek 4. Taco Bell announced for their 20th anniversary that they are going to be releasing a new Crunchwrap Supreme slider. So basically, like, picture the size of a Crunchwrap Supreme, but then make it the size of your palm instead of like the entire hand, assuming that you have like my size hands, which I know not everyone does, but just like picture, right? Here's my hand, that size. The U.S. Department of Education has launched a new portal where people can report DEI efforts at public schools across the country. There is no way that this is going to be used in an abusive way. The Pentagon announced that actively serving transgender members of the military will be removed unless they receive an exemption. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi released, once again in air quotes, like 200 pages of the Epstein files today to a handful of hand-selected right-wing internet influencers who are now claiming that because there wasn't anything juicy that they can tell people, that the FBI and federal lawyers are obviously hiding all the juicy stuff from them. And they're like, it's Thursday, it's going to come out on Friday. Like, okay, grifters. And finally, a reboot of A Walk to Remember is officially in the works, according to Deadline. And that's a lot. I'm sorry, that's a lot of news. It was 2 full days. I don't know what to tell you. Let me know, once again, if you like it without the timestamps, or if you would prefer that I keep the timestamps. I'm down for whatever. I'm flexible. I'm malleable. But like I said, that's all the news of the day. I will be back tomorrow with more news because things are always happening. If you cannot wait until then, I am on social media, on TikTok and YouTube at I've Been Traveling. I am on Instagram and Threads at Ben Keenan. You can always find me here on the podcast at Ben Keenan Just Can't Stop Talking on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please, please, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, follow, whatever, because we are trying to expand this group that we have here. All right, until tomorrow, bye.